Okay, welcome to the Pearl and the Echo podcast. Once again, I'm Jim. With me is Dori, as always. We're absolutely raring to go. We have a beautiful, beautiful quote for you today. Before we start, let's go into our 3 deep breaths, nice and simple. Doesn't need to be forced, but just bringing all of us here to the same place, present all at once. So, when you're ready, take 3 nice, slow, honest, deep breaths. Let yourself really feel each one. Last one for luck. Okay, there you go. Wonderful. Now we're kind of all on the same page. Dory, go for it.
All right. Today's quote is by a Belgian psychotherapist and licensed clinical psychologist. They are a best-selling author, expert in human relationships, intimacy, desire, and recognized as an incredibly important voice in modern relationships. I'm obsessed with Esther Perel. She's just so incredible. Her podcasts are amazing. She has a book that I believe is called Mating in Captivity. The podcast is called Reimagining Love. And today, the quote that we are focusing on is by Esther Perel. So the quote is, "The more we trust, the farther we are able to venture." And so this is short and sweet. And I think, for her, it's all about, I think, relationships and building trust in relationship. And that is the foundation. And I would say that it's the foundation for every relationship. I think when we meet someone, anyone, whether it's a new friend, a new colleague, a new lover, we tend to put on our best foot forward mask. And we talk a lot about masks on this podcast. And so I think it's the same kind of idea where and I think it's okay to wear a mask. Like, again, I'm not anti, especially if you're sick. I'm not anti-mask here, but I think when you develop trust with someone, what becomes happening is you start to put down all the masks, and or the people that are closest to you see that you've got all of these masks, and there's this kind of core version of you that feels safe enough to venture, to have, and I would say to have an adventure, to try something new, to share something that you've never shared with anyone in your life, something deep and personal and important that you've been just holding on to. Trust is such a big word. To defining trust, there's so many different definitions out there, and to me it's really about feeling safe, being authentic. And I know you said one time someone I think we've talked about how authenticity was just seen as like a bad word. But it's about, to me, if we take that word away, it's about your heart and your mind and your spirit being in full alignment, and you have no fear. You are being vulnerable, and you are just saying, this is who I am. These are all my flaws that I'm hopefully working on. And maybe I'm not working on some of them, and that's okay too. And from there, you establish a trusting relationship. And from there, you can go so much further as a couple, as a friend group, as a team that is trying to accomplish something, whether you're volunteering or you're in an organization or you're starting a school that is just becoming so popular, and you're on the 3rd cohort of it, maybe, like Jim, like that's where it starts. I think and again, the more we trust, the more you can be authentic, the more you can be your real self, and everyone in the room can be their true self and feel safe enough to be their true selves. Then we're unstoppable as a species, as a as people.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think, Jim?
Yeah, yeah, completely. I really like Esther Perel. because there's a ballsiness to her when she talks. She doesn't take any kind of crap. She's really forthright, and I really, really like that. And what this gives me is, I think that we got sold this idea that relationships are something static, that you kind of have it and then it's all good, and then maybe it falls to pieces, but it's like you have it and kind of done. Like it's just a consistent thing. And yeah, maybe there's some ups and downs, but you're in a relationship, so that's what there is. But relationships, they're not static at all. And when you're in one that is static, it gets really, really boring, because human beings, we love to learn and explore and try different things. Well, a relationship is an adventure, whether you stay with that person for a month or 50 years. It's got to be continuously an adventure where both of you are trying out different things. I'm 52. I'm different from when I was 32 or 22 or 12. So I'm always changing or becoming more and more myself, or evolving, or I'm always moving. And when you put trust in there, it's interesting, because what I like about this is she doesn't say the more we trust ourselves, or the more we trust the other person, or the more we trust in relationships as a model of life. It's the more I trust in that other person, then I get to be freer, because I know that they'll trust me, and there's something more than just a physical thing there. That I want you to advance. I want you to have a fantastic life. But if that's a static thing, it's kind of like, I want you to have a fantastic life, but you better stay the way I want you to stay, because if you don't, I'm going, because there's no advancement. That's not adventure. And the other part, the more I trust myself, then the more I allow myself to say to that person, to my partner, listen, we need to have a difficult conversation, because I trust me and I trust them to be able to go, oh man, all right, well, I'm not really up for this, but yeah, okay, let's do it. The trust gives you the space to be able to express something. But when there's no trust, they don't know how to accept what you're going to tell them, or they will accept it, but they'll use it against you later on. Then you learn that you can't trust people. And if you tell personal things, they'll get used against you later on. Trust allows adventure, and adventure in a way helps you grow together, and then there's more trust.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like it is all about embracing uncertainty and growth. And I've seen that in my life. A few years ago, I started identifying as non-binary, and I started using she, they pronouns, and it didn't go well in every space or place. And I still have, and I started going by Dori instead of Dorina. And a lot of the folks who listen to this podcast, know me as Dorina. That's how they met me. That's how, that's the name I was given. And but now when I hear that, I'm like, who is that? But I let it slide, because it's my parents, or it's an old coworker, an old friend, and I don't take myself seriously enough uh to care about it as much as perhaps I used to, like a year or two ago. But it's so true. There's been lately, I'm like you. I've been changing so much in the last few years, and I think that's probably partially because we've been working together. And I'll never forget when we started doing healing ceremonies and all of that, you said, your partner is either going to come along for the ride or not, because you are going to change a lot, and some people can't handle that. And I'm really happy to say that he is still very much along for the ride. He edits this podcast, and we thank him for that, because he spends a lot of time listening to my ums and my likes and my pauses, my rights. Apparently I say right a lot. Anyways, so we love him for it. But this is the thing. I have other people in my life who, especially on the non-binary journey, have reacted in certain ways that at the time I found hurtful. And then I was like, it doesn't matter, because there's so many other people in my life, really close friends who are also queer, who are also going through similar life journeys, that are completely supportive, that are completely there for me and just present, and that's all you need. I think Esther Perel would probably agree, and it's something I feel I talk a lot about on this podcast. You can't get everything from the same person. You can't expect your partner to be your therapist, your chauffeur, your cook, your cleaner. You can't. They're a human being, and they've got their own stuff that they're going through. And the same with a friend. You can't expect your friend to be your therapist, your, yoga teacher,
Uh,
your vocal coach, whatever it is, right? We expect a lot from those who are closest to us, but I'm trying to expect less and just hold space. Hold space for all of their intricacies, their flaws in quotations, their just the way that they are. And I think because I have an amazing support group around me, amazing friends, amazing partners, amazing family. I feel that it's allowed me to take some really bold steps in my life and in my relationships and in my career and my personal development. And I'm not done. Like in my mind, I'm just getting started. And so that trust is huge. It's just huge. But I think it comes with this acceptance that you can't really change people because you'll never truly know anyone except maybe yourself if you're lucky.
yeah, completely. Not everyone wants to come along for that kind of ride. I'm a great believer in not sharing everything in a romantic relationship. I think it's a terrible idea when you emotionally dump on each other because that person isn't your therapist. They're your partner. With trust also comes respect. So there needs to be that level of this aspect of my life. Yeah, that's for us. Because then it's not that you're selective about what you bring to a relationship, but you're aware of the consequences of all of your actions and you demonstrate that. Then that other person is willing to do the same thing or show their own boundaries or say, look, this is acceptable or this is not acceptable. So this is relationships, is it? God, I had no idea. When you were a teenager or in your 20s and you had a relationship and you didn't have a clue what that was and just the mess that goes with all of that. If you close your eyes right now, Dori, and listeners or watchers as well, what does distrust feel like in your body?
To me, it feels like a gut feeling of just uncomfortable, like a bit of a weight,
Mm.
right in my solar, maybe just below my solar plexus. That's what
Yeah.
it feels like.
Yeah, for me, it feels almost like a confinement, like I'm stuck in
Mm.
something. And when there's real trust, and you can't tell people to trust you because then we break that. And people are used to us saying, trust me, everything's fine. And then go break that trust. But because trust is a feeling that you have, the more you allow yourself to feel trust in yourself or in life or in that person, well, then maybe the more you allow yourself to feel other things as well that are on that journey.
Yeah. I like what you said about not emotionally dumping on your romantic partner. I think that's so easy to do.
Mm.
And it's funny, I think about how I was as a teenager, as a 20-something, dating people, and I very much was just muddling through, hadn't read Esther Perel or listened to any Esther Perel podcasts. And so you just kind of give yourself away. And in some ways I still do that. I'm trying to not do that so much because I know it's a highly sensitive person thing, but I get excited. I get wrapped up in it. I want to give any sort of new friend, new person in my life, everything. I want to share everything with them. At a new job, I want to be the best at everything so that they, like me and want to keep me around and et cetera, et cetera. And so I think some of that is normal until you hit a wall and you burn yourself out and you realize you've been giving things to everyone else except yourself, or you think you're doing something for someone else, but actually they never asked you to do any of that, and it's maybe what you think they want, but it's actually what you want. You're just projecting it on them. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's been really interesting for me to, even just being at a store and saying like, oh, I want to do this thing and I'm going to share it with this person. It's like, actually, I don't have to share it with anyone because it's clearly for me. Like this is clearly a Dory thing. And that it can stay as just a Dory thing. And I feel like giving those gifts to ourselves first, especially if you've been through a breakup or really deep heartache, it has to start with you and giving that love and attention to yourself. And then when you do that, it to me, it becomes easier to receive that from other people and then to not give yourself away in
Yeah.
this kind of highly sensitive way that some of us have been conditioned to be.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of conditioning and social structures that we feel like we have to live by or define ourselves by. I like Brené
Yes,
Brown.
Brene Brown,
She
yeah,
talked about
psychologist.
vulnerability. And I think the thing with vulnerability is that there's weak vulnerability and there's strong vulnerability. And in a relationship, when there's trust, sometimes that can get broken by weak vulnerability of you spilling your guts all over the floor of how terrible life is. And it's not about hiding something from your partner or not sharing. The sharing is super important.
Mhm.
But there's the sharing of oneself from weakness or from a place of, no, I know who I am. I'm strong. I know who I am and I believe in myself and I trust myself and I can be vulnerable. And then the other person is like, right, yeah, cool, me too. What should we do? And then the adventure kind of ensues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think vulnerability and risk, those are the pieces that can lead to unexpected growth, right? You have to take a bit of a risk. And for me, I've been thinking a lot about that. Taking risks in relationships with friends, and it's hard because I've been burned before. I've shared things with friends and gotten reactions that I simply didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I was looking kind of for support and I got not that. And, and then over time that can lead to silence with a friend, right? And the relationship changes and maybe you're not as close as you would like or not as close as you used to be. And that can be really hard. There's a bit of a grief around that. And so to me, again, it always goes back to, okay, well, what do I need and what am I not getting in this relationship, whatever that relationship might be, and how do I trust myself in this moment and what I need in this moment?
Yeah.
These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah. And instead of where trusting leads to emotional vomiting, instead the trusting leads to experiences. It leads to richer experiences with that person. And that's what she's saying. So Dory, give it to us again, please. Yeah, because that's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I could talk about this one all day.
Yeah.
Esther Perel, the more we trust, the farther we are able to venture. Please share this with someone in your life. Maybe you're in a fight, share it with them. Maybe you haven't spoken in over a month.
Yeah.
Maybe everything is perfect and, you're going to profess your love to each other. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Share it and follow us, subscribe, do all the things so that we can keep doing this every week.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Pearl and the Echo podcast with me, Dori Sim, and my co-host, Jim Rajan. Thank you to Rebel Mixtape Productions for editing this episode. If you like what you heard, like, subscribe, and share with those in your life that matter most.